Fierce gusts swept through the barren landscape, making the small schoolhouse windows rattle in their frames. In the dim glow of her oil lamp, Miss Clara worked alone, marking student papers well past evening hours. This isolated frontier settlement left her spirit heavy with solitude. She released a weary breath, pushing back a loose strand of hair, completely unaware that this very night would transform her peaceful existence beneath the endless canopy of stars. A dark silhouette appeared beyond the glass, imposing and immovable. Clara's body went rigid as the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the wooden steps outside. The entrance groaned on its hinges, framing an enormous man wearing a weathered cowboy hat. They called him Boone, a ranch hand famous for his power and few words. Those intense blue eyes found hers, stealing the air from her lungs. "Tonight I'm making you mine, darling," his voice rumbled with unwavering confidence. Clara's pulse thundered. Rising to her feet, she gripped the edge of her desk. "You have no right to storm in here like this," she managed, her words shaking despite their defiance. Boone moved forward, his spurs creating a gentle chiming sound. He stood like a mountain, massive shoulders, hands capable of breaking rock. But something gentler flickered in his stare. Desire, certainly, yet also a trace of yearning that echoed her own isolation. "I've been observing you." Boone's voice came out like crushed stone. "Day after day, guiding those children, forcing smiles through your pain." Heat rose in Clara's cheeks, disturbed that he'd read her so easily. She'd fled to this settlement to leave behind heartbreak, but the hollow feeling had followed her here. Boone's commanding presence consumed the space, intimidating yet oddly reassuring. "What makes you choose me?" she breathed, studying his face. He rested against the doorway, hat pulled low over his features. "You're the light this place desperately needs, but you're slowly dying out here by yourself." His observation cut straight through her defenses. Clara had felt like a ghost, her romantic dreams crushed beneath daily monotony. Boone's raw intensity awakened something dormant inside her, equal parts terror and longing. "I barely know who you are," she objected, though her racing heart revealed the truth. Boone's mouth lifted in a seldom-seen smile. "That'll change." Moving closer, his shadow consumed the lamp's weak glow. Clara retreated until her dress touched the blackboard behind her. Every instinct screamed to cry out, to flee, yet she remained frozen. His aroma, worn leather mixed with wild sage, surrounded her completely. "Words ain't my strong suit, Clara, but I recognize what calls to me, and that's you." His absolute certainty crashed over her like a tempest she couldn't deny. The howling wind outside suddenly ceased, as though nature itself paused to listen. Clara's thoughts spun wildly. She'd heard the legends about Boone, how he'd broken untamed mustangs and faced down bandits without hesitation. Now here he stood, claiming her with unexpected gentleness hidden beneath his rough exterior. "This is complete insanity," she whispered. Though her conviction wavered, her starved heart craved the connection he offered. Reckless though it seemed. "Perhaps so," Boone answered, his palm grazing her face with surprising warmth and weathered texture that somehow anchored her. Clara trembled, torn between panic and the first spark of real desire she'd felt in ages. "You're meant for more than this hollow classroom," he declared. "Ride away with me." His challenge hung in the air like a lifeline thrown to a drowning soul. Clara's history had trained her to protect her emotions, but Boone's gaze made her want to gamble everything. She stepped backward, shaking her head. "I refuse to be conquered like some prize." Her voice found new strength. Boone's eyes sharpened, but he held his ground. "I'm not about forcing anybody," he stated. "But I recognize you, Clara. You've got steel in your spine, but loneliness is eating you alive. I'm offering you existence that's untamed, dangerous maybe, but genuine." His raw honesty shattered her careful walls. She'd forgotten the feeling of being truly understood. The room seemed to shrink, the atmosphere thick with unspoken possibilities. Clara's mind raced through memories. She'd built fortress around her heart after a faithless suitor destroyed her trust back east. Boone felt different, unrefined perhaps, but authentic in ways that mattered. "What exactly are you asking of me?" she questioned, barely audible. His expression grew tender. "A companion to stand alongside me, not trail behind." Those words stirred her restless soul. Clara glanced around the schoolhouse, her refuge that had become her prison. She traveled here seeking renewal, but the endless solitude was slowly crushing her spirit. Boone represented something else entirely, a life as wild and free as the frontier itself. And if I refuse? She tested him. His jaw hardened with resolve. I'll respect that choice. But I'll return, Clara. You weren't born to face this world alone. His determination shook something loose inside her. The flame flickered, throwing dancing shadows across the walls. Clara's heart fought a silent battle between safety and the magnetic pull of belonging Boone offered. She pictured life beyond these four walls, nights beneath infinite stars, his steadfast presence at her side. One opportunity, she said at last, her voice finding steady ground. Show me you're serious. Triumph flashed in Boone's eyes like lightning. He offered his hand, massive yet surprisingly gentle. Let me share my world with you. Clara paused, then slipped her fingers into his. His grip felt solid, warm, a promise made flesh. Together they walked outside, cool night air kissing her skin. Boone's horse, a magnificent black stallion, stamped restlessly in the moonlight. He lifted her onto the saddle with steady hands at her waist. For the first time in years, Clara felt truly alive, unrestrained by convention or fear. They galloped across the open plains, stars creating a brilliant tapestry overhead. Boone's comfortable silence felt like protection against the darkness. Clara held tight, her anxieties dissolving with each thundering hoofbeat. The settlement disappeared behind them, taking her old life with it. She didn't know their destination, only that she trusted this man guiding her toward the unknown, his warmth her anchor in the night. They paused at a high ridge overlooking an enormous valley. Moonlight painted the landscape silver, wild and untouched by civilization. Boone dismounted, then helped Clara down with careful hands. This is where I belong, he said, gesturing toward the vast expanse. No barriers, no restrictions, just us. Clara gasped at the raw beauty and at the meaning behind his words. She'd never experienced such freedom, yet felt so completely connected to another person. It's breathtaking, she whispered. Boone turned toward her, moonlight softening his rugged features. So are you. His reverent tone made her cheeks burn with pleasure. She'd nearly forgotten what it meant to be desired. What comes next? She asked. Boone stepped closer, fingers brushing through her hair. We create something together. Simple words, but they carried the weight of sacred vows. Clara's heart expanded, daring to embrace hope once more. They settled beside a small fire Boone built, crackling flames mixing with the night's peaceful sounds. He shared stories of his life, herding livestock, weathering storms, outrunning outlaws. Clara revealed her own journey, the broken engagement, her escape to the frontier town, her passion for education. Boone listened intently, never looking away. For the first time in memory, she felt completely heard, her dreams no longer buried beneath obligation and duty. As dawn painted the sky in rose and gold, Clara felt reborn. Boone stood, extending his hand once more. Stay with me, he said, not a command, but a heartfelt plea. Clara looked into his eyes, seeing past the intimidating exterior to the man who truly saw her, who wanted all of her. Yes, she answered with absolute certainty. The crushing loneliness that had haunted her vanished, replaced by the bright spark of something beautiful and new. They rode back toward town, the schoolhouse growing larger on the horizon. Clara understood she would return to her students, but never again alone. Boone would be there, a true partner in every aspect of her life. I'll need time to adjust, she said, glancing his way. He nodded firmly. I'm not going anywhere. His promise felt as solid as the earth beneath them. Clara smiled, her heart lighter than it had been in years. She was ready to truly live, not merely survive. Days passed, and Boone proved as good as his word. He'd wait outside the schoolhouse, helping with daily tasks, his presence a quiet source of strength. The townspeople gossiped, but Clara couldn't bring herself to care. She was no longer the lonely teacher hiding from life. With Boone beside her, she discovered balance, her love of teaching complemented by his love of the wilderness. Together they became complete, their connection deepening with each moment they shared. One evening beneath a crimson sunset, Boone brought her back to their special ridge. He knelt down, not with a ring, but holding a hand-carved wooden star. Made this for you, he said simply. A piece of my world. Tears filled Clara's eyes. It wasn't a proposal, not yet, but a promise of forever. She accepted the star, tracing its smooth edges with her fingertips. "I'll treasure it always," she said, emotion thick in her voice. The town began changing too. Boone's strength combined with Clara's compassion inspired everyone around them. Children's laughter rang out more often. Neighbors reached out to help one another. Clara watched her students flourish, their futures brightening because of her influence. Boone, once a solitary wanderer, became the community's protector, his guarded heart opening because of her love. Together they formed an unstoppable force, quietly transforming their settlement through the power of their devotion. Months later, Clara stood in her classroom with Boone at her side. She'd hung the wooden star above her desk as a constant reminder of their bond. "You transformed everything about me," she told him, her hand finding his. Boone shook his head gently. "You were always complete, Clara. I just helped you recognize it." His words warmed her to the core. She'd discovered her true place, not just within the town, but deep within his heart, and he in hers. They faced their share of obstacles, fierce storms, moments of doubt, the heavy burden of their separate pasts. But every challenge only strengthened their union. Clara learned to ride fearlessly, her joyous laughter carrying across the plains. Boone learned to appreciate poetry, his deep voice stumbling charmingly over her favorite verses. They grew together, their differences weaving a beautiful tapestry of love, trust, and mutual respect that neither had ever known before. One night beneath a full moon, Boone pulled Clara close against him. "You're my home," he said, his voice raw with emotion. Clara's spirit soared. She'd come to this frontier town seeking escape, but found infinitely more: a partner, a purpose, a life worth living. "And you're mine," she replied, her words carrying the weight of sacred vows. They stood together, the world vast but no longer frightening. Their love served as a beacon shining through the wilderness. The schoolhouse became a symbol of their unity. Clara teaching while Boone built new desks, their students thriving under their combined care. The townspeople stopped their whispers, recognizing the genuine truth of their partnership. Clara was no longer lonely, and Boone was no longer a solitary cowboy. They had become a team, their love a quiet strength that anchored them both, no matter what challenges the future might bring. Years later, Clara and Boone sat together on their own porch, the wooden star now hanging above their front door. Their life was simple, her teaching, his ranching, but rich beyond measure with love and contentment. The town had grown and prospered, but their bond remained its beating heart. Clara leaned against Boone's solid frame, his arm encircling her protectively. "Was worth claiming you," he murmured against her hair. She smiled up at him. Was worth being claimed. The stars above shone brilliantly, reflecting their enduring joy as the sun set, casting golden light over their peaceful world.